If Israel had been able to walk at a good pace through the wilderness, they could have made it to the promised land in about 2 weeks. Now, God wasn't going to let them get out that fast. He had things that had to be done. They had to build his dwelling place, the tabernacle in the wilderness, and they had to, many things they had to learn about God. But it was only about 2 years before they came to Kadesh Barnea when the Lord wanted them to enter. And because of their unbelief, they ended up spending another 38 years in the wilderness. I see Christians doing the same thing, where God leads them there as fast as he can when they're mature enough to go in, but often things happen and they turn back and they end up going around circles most of their life in the wilderness instead of walking in the promises. That's why it says we must make our calling and election sure. Many are called, but few are chosen. Few go on to make their calling and election sure. And so we want to do that. And don't be surprised when it seems like the opposite is happening to you. True faith gets stronger with the trials and stronger with the passage of time, not weaker. It's what it was said of Abraham in Romans, where it says, in hope against hope he believed. He was too old when God called him, and then God made him wait 20 more years before giving him that promised son. And you can understand how he would slip occasionally and, get off track a little bit and try to do it himself. But that's a long time to stay on course, and nobody passes God's test with a perfect score. James said we all stumble in many ways. We all make mistakes. But in Jeremiah 20, Psalm 11, it talks about how the Lord tests the righteous. And we often think that when we're going through all these trials and tests, it's because of something we've done wrong. No, the opposite is the case. The Lord regards you enough to test you. And just like we take tests in school and have to pass the test to go to the next level, the same is true with the tests that God gives us. We need to pass these to go to a new level. And one friend of mine used to say, he says, you never fail one of God's tests. You just keep taking them until you pass. I don't know about you, I'm tired of taking a lot of the same tests, going around circles in the wilderness. Let's go into the promised land. Let's take those promises. But we've got to have hearts of faith that believe to do that and to enter into the promised land, just like Joshua and Caleb. They spied out the land. They saw the same thing that the 10 evil spies saw, but they had a whole different reaction to it. They all saw how fruitful the land was, how it was just as great as the Lord said it was, but there were giants in the land. Of course, the 10 evil spies came out saying, wow, the land is wonderful, it's awesome, just like the Lord said, but we can't take that land. There are giants in there that we look like grasshoppers next to. They're going to eat us alive. But what was the reaction of Joshua and Caleb? They saw the same thing, saw the same giants and how big they were, but they had a totally different response to what they saw. They said, yeah, there are giants in the land. That's awesome. They're going to be bread for us. It's like we get to go and conquer these giants. Because they weren't looking at how small they were in relation to the giants. They were looking at how big their God was and how much bigger he was than the giants. So whether we walk in faith is determined to a large degree on our perspective. What do we see? How do we see it? In the book of Revelation, the valley, John saw Babylon. But what did he see when he was carried to a high mountain? He saw the New Jerusalem. So I think they were both going on at the same time. A lot of what we see is determined by our perspective. Are you living life seeing how big God is and knowing how big he is, watching him, seeing him on the throne? Or are you going through life letting the circumstances and problems and obstacles and giants in this world dictate our life and our course? Or are you doing what we're called to do, reigning in this life, which we only do as we abide in the King?
God promises he will continually lead you. How many of you have felt led by God before? You felt led. You felt God was leading things in your life. How many of you have felt at some time it seems you couldn't find him? You're not sure you're being led again? What is the promise here? He will continually lead you. There's something like being led continually. It's a different ball game. You don't feel all lost and floundering. You have to keep the fast that the Lord has chosen. Okay? Just obey these things. It will help you. He promises He will feed you. You will have food even in parched regions. Why would He say that? How will you have food in parched regions? Let me explain the best I can there. There will be times in your life where things seem dry. He'll keep feeding you. His word will keep coming to you. And things seem dry. I don't mean physical, I don't mean financial, I mean spiritual. Oh, there are dry places. Some of you raising your hand. Let me tell you what you're going through. You're going through a wilderness. It's part of the curriculum. Don't worry. There's nothing anyone can do about it. There's that one. Then there's the other one. That's the one that after you've done all He has said you should do, it's still there. Don't worry. You can't do anything about it. Just hold on. Keep believing. When it's time for it to end, you come through. I hope you heard me. Don't run around and get all depressed. That's when faith towards God must hold you. That's where you just hold on and maintain. Don't stop. That's the worst time to stay away. The way I've been feeling, what's the use? You don't come for fellowship. No, that's when you need fellowship the most. I've shared in the past about this. I've been through those seasons. Some of them feel very horrible. They're like, God, where are you? When will I come to you? You feel like David in a dry and thirsty land where there's no water. There are seasons like that. God allows some of that. Okay? He wants you to learn to trust in Him in spite of how you feel. I heard Patricia King said that for 1 year. She didn't experience anything supernatural, but she was still experiencing something. She would have words, but it wouldn't seem to come supernaturally. Like she was still experiencing God, but it wouldn't be boo. She wouldn't get it like, okay, God might speak through people around her and stuff like that, but she wouldn't. Like 1 year, and God told her, yes, I'm teaching you. I am not there because you're feeling me. And I've warned some of you about it. That's why I get bothered when some of you get so easily discouraged. Because you haven't even seen anything. You start being discouraged. You haven't seen anything. You haven't seen anything. God does it so you trust in Him, not in what you see and experience. God can go on radio silence with you for... I almost said may not happen to you, but who am I? I don't have a voice in this matter. I may have a little voice. God show you mercy when He puts you through it. Let Him do it very brief and then come back brief. So you get... God can be using you every day. And you wonder if He threw away, He blocked your number. Everybody around you knows God is with you. Like supernatural stuff are happening. You're wondering like, excuse me, Papa, wait. What do you say I did again? How? Why? I mean, you lay hands on a goat, it speaks in tongues. It's like God does not talk around where you are. I'm like, what is this? Some, it will pass. Shabra. Let me do fasting and prayer. You do it 1 day, 2 days, 7 days. You come out. You feel how you were before you began the 7 days. Remember, there was a time you just go outside for 2-3 hours, 1 day, 1 afternoon, fasting. And oh, it's so sweet. Oh, you feel like dying for joy, for pleasure. Oh, God, your presence. There's nothing like it. I remember having a room and sharing with my brother, so 1 bed, and you can't pray loudly. My normal shy way, I don't like praying around people much, and sometimes you're lying down there praying quietly because it's afternoon, bright afternoon. Where are you going to go? There's no empty room or quiet place. And you're there praying, waiting on the Lord. It's a Sunday afternoon. And you're saying, Chai, I can imagine if I had a private room just to myself. Shandaba. We would go far places, deep places.